Hello, welcome to the European Open briefing for Tuesday, March the 28th. I'm Rafi Boyadjian, currency analyst at xm.com, and we're going to be looking at what's happening in the currency markets today. So it's a relatively quiet day here today on Tuesday. Much of the moves are continuation from what we saw take place late yesterday. The dollar has bounced back a little bit from the 4-month lows it touched yesterday after, of course, that failed healthcare bill, which led many analysts to lose faith over Donald Trump's ability to win support in Congress for other policies, such as particularly fiscal policies such as tax cuts and so on. We also saw a bit of a rebound in equities. But overall, despite the improved risk appetite, there is still quite a bit of uncertainty hanging over the markets. The euro and the pound have been the main beneficiaries of the dollar slide. They reached multi-week highs yesterday, although they've come off those highs this morning. Oil prices have managed to stabilize though, but they're still stuck very much near 3 months lows. Looking at the dollar-yen chart, we can see here the dollar touched a 4-month low of 110.10 against the Japanese yen. It's bounced off a little bit now. It's currently trading at 110.70. The dollar index hit 4-month low of 98.86. That's also moved up a little bit today. But overall, there's doubts about whether or not the Trump administration will be able to pass through the tax reforms and infrastructure spending, given that Trump failed to win enough support from his own Republican Party for the healthcare reform. Although, having said that, Trump has said that now he will now focus on those big tax cuts that he promised. So that's helping the dollar at least to recover a little bit from those lows. But today the focus will likely be on Fed speakers. We already had comments by Chicago Fed President Charles Evans and Dallas Fed President Robert Kaplan. Evans was fairly dovish. He said that inflation would have to be much stronger in order to justify a fourth rate hike this year. Robert Kaplan was fairly neutral. He said that as long as there's continued progress, he will continue to support further increases in interest rates. We're going to have more speakers coming up later today. Janet Yellen will speak at 16:30 GMT, although it's unclear whether or not she will comment on monetary policy. Esther George is due to speak at 16:45 GMT. Robert Kaplan will speak again at 17 hours GMT, and Fed Governor Jerome Powell is due to make an appearance at 8:20:30 GMT. Moving on now to European currencies, we can see both the euro and the pound have come off those impressive highs they touched yesterday. The euro hit a 4-month high of 1.0905. Sterling hit a 7.5-week high of 1.2615. Apart from the weaker dollar, the euro is getting a boost from the lessening odds for the far-right candidate Marine Le Pen to win the French elections, given that Emmanuel Macron, centrist candidate, is doing rather well at the moment, but also on expectations that the ECB might begin to raise its deposit rate later this year. The pound is also being supported by growing views that the Bank of England will begin to raise rates at some point this year, but the focus for sterling is, of course, tomorrow's Brexit trigger. Theresa May, the British Prime Minister, is due to formally begin Brexit negotiations. We might hear some more either from the UK government or the EU side, or from both sides, on what negotiating stance they will take. So that may lead to some fluctuations in the pound. Quick look now at commodity currencies and oil. Although the risk appetite has improved a little bit, this hasn't really been much of a boost for the New Zealand, Australian and Canadian dollars. The Aussie and the Kiwi are down this morning by around between 0.2 0.3%, mainly due to weakness in commodity prices, which remain under pressure, particularly metal prices. The Canadian dollar is at 2-week lows, and that's mainly due to sluggish crude oil prices. There's still not much optimism about whether or not the OPEC, non-OPEC cut will benefit the oil prices, given the extent of the oversupply, and we're seeing continued increases in U.S. production. Although crude oil prices have stabilized, WTI is currently around $48 a barrel. They're not too far from the near 4 months lows it hit last week. And also, just a quick mention for the Canadian dollar, there is a speech coming up by Bank of Canada Governor Stephen Poloz, where he may comment on the monetary policy outlook for Canada. Looking at today's economic calendar, it's looking a very quiet day. The main data will be out of the US, and it's going to be the Consumer Confidence Index later in the day. Before then, the Case-Shiller 20 City House Price Index and the Advanced Trades Good Balance might attract some attention. That's it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.